Welcome to Brewers Daily. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. We got a lot to get to on the show today. It is a Monday after the Super Bowl. Everyone's all kind of hangover. We're waking up from our stupor of drinking and watching the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and we wake up and Matt Arnold has made a massive move for the Brewers. He has made a trade with the Boston Red Sox, sending out Rookie of the Year finalist Caleb Durbin, along with Andrew Monasterio and Anthony Siegler, and a Comp B pick to the Boston Red Sox in exchange for 3 players. So this is a shocking move, to say the least. This is not what anyone was expecting. We knew that the Red Sox were looking for infield help, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but the Brewers being that team to make that trade, and not only just trade them an infielder and give them Caleb Durbin, the entirety of the Brewers' infield depth is moving in this trade. It is Durbin, it is Anthony Siegler, it is Andrew Monasterio. That is your utility infielder, that is your backup utility infielder, that is your starting third baseman, that are all just poof, gone to the Boston Red Sox. This is something. We'll get into the after effects of who plays third base. That's kind of the leading question among Brewers fans right now. But I mean, this is one I was not expecting. Now, the Brewers got Caleb Durbin last year in the Devin Williams trade with the Yankees. So you get Caleb Durbin coming over. He was the prize. Okay, you're getting 6 years of this dude to play in the infield. And it's like, okay, then he comes in first year, and he does everything you're expecting him to do. Everything Pat Murphy was expecting him to be. Really, really good young player, had a great season, third place in Rookie of the Year voting, and took over as your starting third baseman. So it's like, okay, that seems like it tracks, and he's going to be here for a little bit until some of your other big third base guys end up coming through the system. But you would imagine he would at least have had this year to be the starting third baseman again. He was penciled in as it. That's what he was slated to be. It seemed like that position was finally locked down for a little bit. But now he gets to go to Boston, along with the rest of the infield depth, which it tells me, I mean, there is some other plan here, but we'll get into that here, because Durbin, really good season. Andrew Monasterio also had a really good season. When he had to step in for Joey Ortiz late in the year, he was really on a hot streak. He had a 10-game hitting streak the entire 10 days that Joey Ortiz was on the IL. So Mona had a great season. Siegler, I think people are fine with losing Siegler, but it's depth. It's a body you can have at that position. All of them are gone. And the thing that stings me the most is the comp pick being gone. The Brewers trading that away. I know it's Comp B this year. It's not as valuable as Comp A, but still, this is twice in a row now that the Brewers have traded away a comp pick, a competitive balance pick, to Boston. They've traded it away to Boston 2 years in a row. They traded it last year in the Quinn Priester trade, which I did not like at the time, but the Quinn Priester trade has worked out. So, and before maybe we fully judge this trade, because the current initial reaction is very negative, because everyone liked Caleb Durbin. It's all your infield depth that's going in this trade. So the initial reaction here is very negative on the Brewers trade with the Boston Red Sox. So we'll see how it ends up shaking out. But there's still a lot more to break down here with this trade, including who are the Brewers getting. Okay, so Caleb Durbin's out. Andrew Monasterio, Anthony Siegler, they're out. They're shipping up to Boston. Who are the Brewers getting in return? The return is led by Kyle Harrison, left-handed pitcher. Now, Harrison, he kind of rose to fame a little bit in the Rafael Devers trade. So the Boston Red Sox signed Rafael Devers to this massive contract, and then they trade him because they bring in Alex Bregman, and they think he's a better defensive third baseman. So Rafael Devers is kind of upset, and so they just want to get out from the contract. So they trade Rafael Devers out. And what is the return that they get? It is led by Kyle Harrison here. And now Kyle Harrison, a year later, is on his way to Milwaukee. Because, I mean, the Red Sox also did this with Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks was part of that trade for Rafael Devers. And they shipped him out as well. James Tibbs and Jose Bayo were the other two that the Red Sox got. And so quickly they have flipped around these guys, which is incredible, really, that they're doing it this fast from the guys that they got. And James Tibbs, who they also got there, traded to the Dodgers. So he's already been flipped around as well, which is... So 3 of the 4 players that they got for Rafael Devers have already been flipped, which is incredible to me, what they're doing there. So it is just one after another. Kyle Harrison, so he has played in the big leagues a little bit here. Kyle Harrison, last season, a 4.04 ERA, 11 games, 6 starts, in his big league numbers. Left-handed pitcher, okay, so that adds to some depth there. Spent a couple years with San Francisco. Pitched in 24 games in 2024 with them. Then obviously traded to Boston. And last year, kind of up and down. Pitched in 3 games for Boston. Had a 3 ERA over 12 innings. So it's like, okay, but Kyle Harrison, he's kind of bounced between AAA and the big leagues in recent years. Kyle Harrison's 24 years old, so he's still very young. And I would imagine the pitching lab is going to be absolutely thrilled to work with this dude. So that is, kind of an exciting part for him, for the Brewers, them being able to work with them. They also get Shane Drohan in this trade, another left-handed pitcher. He's 27 years old, so a bit on the older side there for a prospect. Last season in AAA, did really well in AAA. Had a 2.27 ERA for AAA Worcester. 12 games, 11 starts for him over 47 innings. 67 strikeouts in those 47 and 2/3 innings. So he's got some pretty nasty stuff. So again, I'm excited to see what the Brewers can do with him as a pitching prospect. This was already kind of some loaded starting rotation depth. I can understand maybe getting 1 more, but the Brewers get 2 more big league ready starting rotation guys in Drohan and Harrison here. And who the Brewers also get back is David Hamilton. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because it is. The Brewers drafted him in the 8th round all the way back in 2019 out of Texas. And Hamilton, he was a pretty good prospect in the Brewers system, was putting up some good numbers, and then they traded him in the Jackie Bradley Jr. trade. So they signed Jackie Bradley Jr. super late in the offseason. He was absolutely terrible in his 1 year in Milwaukee, and then that next winter, right before the lockout actually, they trade him back to Boston, and they have to include Alex Binelas, the hometown kid, hometown prospect at third base, and David Hamilton. They have to include those 2 prospects in the trade in order to get Jackie Bradley Jr. off their hands and get Hunter Renfroe back in return. But David Hamilton has turned into having, a decent big league career the past couple of seasons. He's made it up, had a 2.6 WAR in 2024, hit 248 that year. But 697 OPS, 96 OPS plus. Even his best year, he was a below league average hitter. Last year, hit a $198 in 91 games. 63 OPS plus. So, he's not really he's not a regular starter at any infield position. Now, he's played second, he's played short, played a little bit of third last year, but he's kind of like your backup utility infielder. He can replace Monasterio. I'm not sure that he's necessarily better than Monasterio. He is certainly faster, stole 22 bases last year, despite hitting 198, stole 33 bases in his best season in 2024. So, he's someone that certainly is speedy. He can steal bases, but he is a utility infielder at best. He is not a starting third baseman. He is not a starting shortstop at the big league level. He's 28 years old, but still, it's like, oh, okay, that can replace Monasterio, that can replace Siegler, but I think the real question for just about all of us is how are you going to replace Caleb Durbin over there at third base? Who's going to play there? Who's going to play at third base this season? That's really the question that I'm asking, that everyone else is really asking, because you look at the rest of the infield depth, you just traded it all away. You just traded away your infield depth. So who's going to play there? I mean, Brock Wilken is your top third base prospect, but he's not ready. He hasn't played AAA ball yet. You got Cooper Pratt and Jet Williams. I mean, Jet Williams just got in the Freddie Peralta trade. Does this clear room for him? That could be something that maybe the Brewers are trying to do. Maybe they want to move Joey Ortiz back to third, and then you can put Williams in at short, or Pratt in at short. But I can't imagine they would want to move Pratt there without seeing him at AAA first. Same thing with Jesus Made, Luis Pena. Any of those other infield prospects that the Brewers have, they haven't really been proven at the AAA level yet, so this doesn't really clear a spot for him. It's too early to make that kind of a move to clear a spot for him. So, is this going to be a Jet Williams kind of thing, and they're moving Joey Ortiz around? That's really all you got. Luke Adams was at AA. I mean, you got Ethan Murray, who played at AAA, second base, third base, but he's not even on the 40-man. He doesn't even have an invite to big league camp at this point. So it's not going to be him. You're not banking on Eddie Leonard, your minor league pickup earlier in the offseason. You're not banking on that guy to be your starting third baseman. You're not banking on David Hamilton to be that guy. So what in the world are you going to do at third base? The present plan might have to be you shift Joey Ortiz back over there, but the Brewers love Joey Ortiz's defense at short. So who are you getting to play third? I'd have to imagine that the Brewers are still going to be doing something here, because this is wild. This leaves the Brewers without really a proven option at third base, or really even an unproven option. They don't have much at all over at third base now. I mean, this was an infield where it's kind of hard to see yourself fitting someone else in, but that's still kind of slowly over time. You just remove Durbin like that, which I can't imagine Pat Murphy is going to be a huge fan of. Pat Murphy loved Caleb Durbin. So the fact that he's not going to be there is absolutely, he's not going to love that. He's obviously going to, deal with what the ivory tower gives him. But still, I can't imagine he's a big fan of losing Durbin after just one season. He pushed to get Durbin. The Brewers seem to really like Durbin, but apparently so did the Boston Red Sox. So now you have this problem that you're going to have to figure out who in the world is going to play third base. And they're going to have to figure that out, and fast, because pitchers and catchers report this week. There's not much out there. The third base market, largely picked over. Everything's been picked over, largely in free agency. Alex Bregman is gone. He's off the board. Eugenio Suarez is gone. He's off the board. There is not much out there for the Brewers to do at third base. And that's really the part where it kind of makes very little sense to me as to why they are doing this at this point. Wouldn't have made more sense to do it earlier in the offseason. Because when you're looking at the third baseman left in free agency, and that's really kind of the next thing here for the Brewers. Do they have more to do? Yes, they absolutely do. They got to find themselves a third baseman. Who that's going to be, I've got no idea. The third baseman left in free agency, I'm going to read you the list here from MLB Trade Rumors. John Birdie, Santiago Espinal, Kike Hernandez, Luis Rengifo, Emmanuel Rivera, Ramon Urias, and Gio Urshela. That's not a particularly inspiring list of potential third basemen available. It's just not. So that is probably not going to be the route that they go, trying to get something to happen here, because if the Brewers plan on winning the division again, and they do plan on winning the division again, they cannot roll with any of those guys as their starting third baseman. I know Kike Hernandez is probably the biggest name left out there, but whenever he leaves the Los Angeles Dodgers, he's just terrible, and he just wants to get back to the Dodgers. That's all he's done. That's all he ever has done. Signed a big deal with Boston a couple of years ago. It was terrible over there. He's like, trade me back to the Dodgers. And so he ends up back in the Dodgers, and of course, wins a couple World Series over there with those guys. So I cannot imagine that it's going to be any of those guys over there at third base. So what are the Brewers going to do? I think, and I saw this the other day as well, Isaac Paredes of the Houston Astros makes a ton of sense now for the Brewers to get involved in. If they're moving on from Caleb Durbin, I have to imagine that they are eyeing up some actual upgrade over him somewhere out there, most likely on the trade market, because that's how the Brewers have done most of their shopping this offseason. It has been the trade market. The trade with Kansas City, Collins and Mears getting out the door, Freddie Peralta trade, and now the Caleb Durbin trade. So if they're going to be looking anywhere, I think it would be the trade market. Isaac Paredes, we know that the Astros want to deal him. They have an infield glut right now. They want to move either him or Christian Walker. Christian Walker has a big contract. Isaac Paredes, much easier for them to deal. They've been trying to get some bites on there. The Brewers have got to be in the market for Isaac Paredes now. They just absolutely have to. There is no way that they can go through this and send out their entire infield depth just to not get some sort of actual impact player back at that position. David Hamilton, as much as I like him, he is not your starting third base answer. He is not the solution there. And, getting more pitching depth is great, but that doesn't help you putting someone in at the hot corner. You got to have someone there. So I would have to imagine that Isaac Paredes is going to be the turn here. That is going to be the pivot for the Brewers because, he is someone who's also a pretty young player that I would have to imagine the Brewers have their eye on. Last year, he had 254 with 20 bombs and a 123 OPS plus. You want power in your lineup? Everyone's been complaining about this team not having enough power. They need to make a move to add some thump into this lineup. Isaac Paredes would be that guy. That is who they got to get. They just absolutely have to. If you're making this move, had 2.3 WAR last season, really, really good hitter, and an all-star last season. You have the prospect depth to make that kind of a move. If you're trading Caleb Durbin, if you're trading Monasterio and Anthony Siegler, your entire third base depth, your entire big league third base depth, if you're trading that only to get David Hamilton on the infield back in return, you have to have other plans in place to fill third base. And at this point in the offseason, it's one thing to do that in November. Okay, it's one thing to do that at the winter meetings when you have the whole offseason ahead of you. You got all these free agents out there, all these trade targets that are out there. It's much easier to make that trade then. To do it now, you better have something in place. And Matt Arnold, back-to-back reigning executive of the year, I have to imagine that he does have something in place. Okay, Matt Arnold is not stupid. Okay, he knows what he's doing. Okay. In general, he does. I remember flaming the Quinn Priester trade last year for how much they gave up, and it ended up being one of the best moves that they ever made. So, I'm not going to totally flame this one, even though in the moment we may not understand it. We may not understand all the motives, all the desires behind it for Matt Arnold. I'm going to have to imagine he'll get asked about it here fairly soon, but I think there is a greater plan here in place that he is working on. And if you replace Caleb Durbin with Isaac Paredes, I think that's going to be a win. I think that's a positive because you do add more thump into the lineup, okay? You do add some more power there, and you still get a good player at third base. You get a good defender. You get someone who can add some value there into the middle of your lineup and add some presence to it. So that's got to be the move, in my opinion. They have to make that trade because free agency provides nothing for them right now, and Paredes, we know, is on the trade market. We know the Astros are trying to deal him. So if the Brewers don't immediately turn around and make that kind of a deal, like I'd have to imagine they've been talking to him. They've got a feeling that's like, okay, Paredes is someone that can make some absolute sense for us, and it's a price that we can afford. Then I think that, in order to do that, they got to clear out the room first. So they do it. So that's got to be the play, right? I would imagine so. So we'll keep an eye on that as that is playing out here throughout the week because pitchers and catchers report on Thursday. Caleb Durbin will not be reporting to the Brewers. He will be reporting to the Boston Red Sox. A incredible trade here, right before spring training gets started. The Brewers have moved out their entire infield depth in order to get a couple more pitchers and David Hamilton back from Boston. So we'll certainly continue to break it down in future episodes of Brewers Daily. And also follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. I'll have a lot more reaction over there and analysis, breaking it down as things go along until we get to the next show tomorrow. But again, be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops so you can get to the breakdown much faster than everyone else, and so you can tell all your friends like, hey, I heard it here. This is what's going to be happening. So I think Isaac Paredes has got to be the play here for the Brewers. That's got to be what's next. But an incredible trade. Caleb Durbin on his way to Boston, along with Andrew Monasterio and Anthony Siegler. Keep it right here on Brewers Daily. Again, subscribe, get notified, and we'll see you again tomorrow as we break this down even more on another episode of Brewers Daily.